What are you thinking about?
I do what I do because of my dad. He was a hero. He gave his life for the pursuit of knowledge.
I mean, our character has to travel really to the end of the solar system, to Neptune, to find himself, to hit that point of isolation and complete utter despair, to really understand who his father was and really understand who he is so he can go back and do things differently if he makes it back.
Is that like a big metaphor of going farther from the sun, from the light, and going into the darkness to understand his dad?
I think so. I think it's an absolute metaphor, and I'm glad you pointed it out, because that's always something that stuck out to me, was going away with your back to the sun. I mean, everything on Earth grows towards the sun, and without it, you know, most things die. And to go away from it, to me, was symbolic of those really isolated, profoundly dark moments in our life when we feel so utterly alone. I think most people have experienced some form of that, or do in their lives. And if we survive it, you know, the growth and the wisdom that comes out of that experience is priceless.
Your father was experimenting with a highly classified material that could threaten our entire solar system. All life would be destroyed. We're counting on you to find out what's happening out there.
There's another part of the movie when it's about the values and all the things that you inherit from your father. I was wondering, what values did you inherit from your father?
My dad was really about being respectful, about honor, about your word. I say was, he still is, about your word being everything, and really capable guy. But I see my dad in everything I do. So, you know, whether we fight against or we totally embrace, you know, our parents leave an indelible mark on us that shape us.
It's true, in the end, you just became like a slightly different version of...
Yeah, in some way, and you know, he made it better than his dad made it for him, and hopefully I can make it better than he even made it for me, and we can keep going on that way. But yeah, I see him in all of it.
There's a really beautiful scene in the movie where your character is sending a message to his father, and he's remembering when they watch movies. And have you ever watched a movie with your dad?
Oh, watch one of my things again? No, I never watch him again after I'm done. I'm just on.
How come?
You know. Well, I like to get on to the next, and I figure, I don't know, it's done. I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's such an exploration that when, I don't know, it's done.
It's a paradox, isn't it? Because you enjoy the process of doing the movie, but not the final product.
Well, I mean, I've seen the final product before it's released.
But as a viewer, you feel...
And then I'm done. I don't know how to describe it. I'm done. I'm done. But my earliest memories, my dad would take us to the drive-in theater. We'd sit on the hood of the car. My mom would make Kool-Aid because it was all we could afford. We couldn't afford the concessions. And we'd see the drive-in, we'd see movies every weekend. And that was a big highlight of my childhood.
Highly classified information.
What can you tell us about the Lima project?
Its objective was to search for advanced extraterrestrial life. The ship disappeared approximately 16 years into the mission.
And the commander was?
He was my father, sir.
This might come as quite a shock to you.
So because the script was like a work in process, did you pour something about yourself in this character, or?
James and I both did. I mean, we had endless discussions. He would send me personal emails every morning of, you know, very vulnerable emails about his life and his foibles and shortcomings and anxieties, and that was something we wanted to really explore in the casing of a hero save the world kind of genre.
The subject is fatherhood, and you've played a lot of characters through your career, and I was wondering if being able to portray so many human conditions, does that help you to understand fatherhood in a different level?
Well, being father certainly helps you.
Besides the obvious, I mean.
Explain, you know, certainly help you understand fatherhood, and I've heard this said before, but it's true, really help you understand your own father and your own parents. But yeah, I think, I mean, life and all its experiences, its successes and profound failures as an individual, personally, that informs me as a father, and certainly informs what we try to put into this one.
Do you have like any enlightenment about this subject when you were working in the process of this movie? Like something that makes sense?
We wanted to explore this idea of, where I come from, we call it pioneer stock. We're very capable. Men are taught to be courageous, strong, don't show weakness.
Talk about the Midwest.
Yes. And even James, growing up in the East, grew up with some of this. And it seems to me valuable as those particular, components are to a human being. It didn't teach us to take inventory of how we really felt as men. It didn't allow us to really be open and vulnerable with our loved ones. And it's something I had to learn as I've gotten older. And to me, a real confidence comes from that, from really being honest with yourself, with who you are, with knowing yourself, with really knowing yourself for all your shortcomings and your strengths alike. And being to share that with another is, to me, when you can have a true and really beautiful connection with another. These were all subjects we wanted to explore with our hero who's out to save the world.
I worry about you. I love you.
Please begin your psychological evaluation. As best you can, please describe your current mental and emotional state.
I'm feeling good, ready to do my job to the best of my abilities.
Talking about the creative process of this movie, what was like the most interesting part of it? What did you discover about yourself in the process?
It's hard to pinpoint one thing. I mean, the saying is right that life imitates art, art imitates life, and they kind of cross-pollinate off each other. A lot of what has ended up in this film is what I was personally looking at in my life, and James, in his own version, his own way, was looking at in his life. And that informs the film. So, I mean, my questions are how to be more open and be more vulnerable with people I run into on the street. How to be more appreciative. Certainly with my kids, my parents, the loves in my life. These were big questions to me. And what were my personal hindrances that were keeping me from being better at that or living that fully.
The earth put its hopes in him. And now its fate is on me.
Brad, is it difficult to be open when you have this kind of fame and status? I mean, because it could work like being an astronaut and having this suit where you're trapped in.
No, that's a really, really good question. I mean, I believe we all need to maintain some sense of privacy, but we can be really open about our experiences, and because really, we're all the same in that way. And I value that more I feel less protective over that. But it's a really good question. I just don't bother with career maintenance anymore, if that makes sense.
And when did that change?
I guess having kids, I guess getting older, I guess just getting weary of, trying to to protect, And I think, when you get older, if you're evolving, you really there's a comfort to be found in who you are.
If necessary, I will destroy the project in its entirety.
Because in '94, you were in 2 huge films, Interview with the Vampire and Lanes of the Fall. So it has been 25 years now. So when you look back, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? What do you think about your career?
As you can see, I haven't stopped to do that.
We have 2 minutes.
So I got 2 minutes to figure it out. I don't know. I'm happy with most of it, I guess.
No regrets?
I see regrets as such a waste of time, because I look back at those things, you know, you got to acknowledge yourself, you got to forgive yourself for it, and you got to do it right the next time. You got to get on, you got to move on. But what I've noticed career-wise is anytime I've made a misstep, and I have had missteps, that informs the next decision, which becomes a much more intelligent choice, a much wiser, much more experienced choice. Without that, what I'm trying to say is without that misstep that you could regret, I wouldn't have got to the next step of something I found that was really rewarding for me. So I try not to bother with regrets.
Going back to the movie, I think it also talks about how big the shadow of your father is, and you're an icon. I mean, you've done a lot of stuff in your career. So, do you ever wonder about the impact of your shadow in your own kids?
Yeah, I certainly do. I certainly do. I just want them to be free and unencumbered by any of my detritus. I want, you know, to really explore themselves and feel free that way. Unfortunately, they get focused on because of who their parents are a little bit more than a normal child would. But they also, I feel okay about it because a kid's instinct when they're leaving the nest is to rebel against their parents, whoever they are. It's part of leaving the nest.
That was you back then?
That's everyone. I think that was probably you, and I think that was, yeah, all of us. So I'm not worried in the end.
We have a job to do. Are you ready?
I'm ready.